everyone. I do hope you are having a wonderful Easter weekend. I know it's been an unusual one this year, but there'll be others. So I think that the key priority this year is to stay safe. But I'd like to come to you today with a topic called character. So hopefully this will be a series on character, and the subtopic on that is words are us. So that's a play on words on Toys R Us. So the topic is words are us. One of the definitions that I found of character is the complex of mental and ethical traits marking and often individualizing a person, group, or nation. And words are defined as a single, distinct, meaningful element of speech or writing. So words are evidence in spoken words and also in writing. This video will be concentrating on the spoken word. I'll start off with a story. So many years ago, I had promised my sister that during the Christmas holidays I would play a board game with her. So I was meant to do that on Christmas Day. So I was over at the house, and the time came for me to actually keep my promise. However, the adults were watching the movie, and I just felt like I was having more fun watching that movie, so I wanted to just keep on doing that. But I'd made a promise, and I just broke it very flippantly, and she was not amused at all. She was not impressed, and she told me in so many words. So that experience taught me to make fewer promises. I just thought I'd share that with you as an example of a time when I didn't keep my words. So our words describe who we are as people. An ancient text says, out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. And sometimes we can have a lot going on in our hearts. And out of that abundance, our mouth speaks. And when we use words and we're making promises, sometimes we intend to keep the promises. And other times we're just saying what the person needs to hear. And we have no intention of keeping those promises. It's also important to note that people identify who we are based on our words. So if there's a consistency between our words and our actions, what we're saying to people is that we can be trusted. But if there's an inconsistency which is prevalent, so that we say one thing and we do another, there's always a contradiction between our words and our actions. We're telling people that we cannot be trusted. So what quality should we identify in words? The words that we speak ideally. Some of the quality of words should be sincerity. So when we speak, sincerity relates to speaking from the heart. So it's taking time to actually say what you mean and mean what you say. And that can take practice, but sincerity is essential when speaking with words. So when you're sincere, it's key that you avoid just using words to please people, just saying what people need to hear. That can come across as insincere. But when you speak from your heart, even if you're saying something that might be hurtful for that person, if you take your time and say it in a kind manner, they will get more out of the conversation than just saying words that they need to hear or using flattering words. So sincerity is key when we use words. Another key quality of words is consideration. So when we're using words, we should be considerate as to how our words will be received and how the words will impact the person who we are speaking to. So if, for instance, you notice a hole in someone's clothing, and it's maybe a large gathering, it would be inconsiderate to just draw attention to that hole. Even though you're trying to be helpful, it'd be inconsiderate to just draw attention to that hole in public. If it's a friend of yours or somebody you feel comfortable approaching, then maybe take them aside and let them know what the situation is, so that you can save them from embarrassment. Because if you just use your words flippantly, instead of doing good, you probably end up doing more harm, because then you cause them to become embarrassed by your words. So another key element or key quality of words which is tied to consideration is timeliness. Words should be spoken in a timely manner. And this again takes an assessment of the time, the place, the feelings that the person is experiencing at that particular point in time. So if a person has just told you that they lost a pet or lost a loved one, that is not the time to start regaling them about a story of your latest holiday plans. That's not the time, unless of course they've asked you to distract them. So using good words is essential, but the timing of such words is also a crucial factor as well. Another quality of words is reliability. So, can people rely on your words when you speak them? If you say you're going to be on an appointment at 10 a.m., can people rely on your words and say, okay, she said she's going to be here at 10, she'll be here, or he said he's going to be here at 10, he'll be here. A lot of times people just use words, they make appointments, and they have no intention whatsoever of keeping to that appointment. So it's important that when we make appointments, or when we use words for whatever reason, that people can rely on those words. And I know that sometimes situations come up that make it impossible for you to keep that appointment, and that's fine because obviously we are human. But the key in such circumstances is communication. So communicate as early as possible with the person with whom you've made the appointment, that you value the time, but you're unable to be at that appointment at such a time, and then reschedule it, take plans to reschedule it, so that communicates respect and consideration for the person's time and effort as well. Because if they've already started making their way to the appointment and something comes up on your end, if you're taking the time to communicate with them that you've had an emergency, for instance, then that shows respect of their time. Yeah. So, how can you become a person of quality words? I'll give you some tips in that regard. Um, Number one that I found most helpful for me is to make fewer promises. So, like with my sister, I made this promise thinking that I would want to do the board game or play the board game when the time came. But when the time came, I didn't want to play the board game. So it's better to make fewer promises. And if you intend on doing something nice for someone, it might be better to just do it as a surprise, depending on the circumstances. Because that way, if you make fewer promises, if things come up, then and if you haven't communicated your intentions to the other person, then you're only breaking a promise to yourself because the other person doesn't know about it. So if you intended to buy flowers for someone, or if you intended to take someone to dinner, but you hadn't told them, then it's only a mental promise to yourself. So you could always reschedule that and do something nice for that person at a later date, but you haven't broken your word. So make fewer promises. That way, there's a less likelihood that you'll break your promises, or yeah, you break it less times, or might have to reschedule things less times. So make fewer promises is what I found that helpful. Another tip I have for you is to count the cost. Now, this is a situation often found amongst nice people, because yeah, I'll use the category nice people because some people have a harder time saying no, and they want to help, they want to be helpful, they have skills that they can be useful to people, and they want to help. And such people do end up over promising, and trying to help too many people. So the best way to address that is check your schedule. If someone asks you to do something, instead of saying yes straight away, just say something like, I'll get back to you, and then take that time, leave the situation, check your schedule to see if you can actually help. A word that I found very helpful is just no, because it's hard sometimes, but sometimes, particularly myself, I've overpromised, tried to do too many things, and then found myself totally just washed out and exhausted. So use the word no as a way to protect yourself, as a way to protect yourself from breaking promises, and as a way to conserve your energy. Sometimes say yes when you can, but before you say yes or no, whatever the case might be, check your schedule. So you could just say to them, I'll check my schedule and get back to you. That's a good way. When you say I'll get back to you, that can also be a trap, because if you're a very busy person or someone who is very inundated with inquiries and stuff, if you say I'll get back to you, that's a spoken promise. So it might be best to say, I'll check my schedule. Why don't you come back to me? Place the burden on them to come back to you, or whatever day. So why don't you come back to me tomorrow? I'll check my schedule and I'll let you know. So that places the burden on them. So you're not saying you're going to get back to too many people and then forget to get back to too many people, and you're back at square one where you're not keeping your word. Yeah. So check your schedule. And then a final tip is put yourself in the other person's shoes. This is really good for developing sensitivity. Place yourself in the other person's shoes and ask yourself, if I was them, would I want to hear this right now? So if I was my son, this is an example, if I was my son, for instance, who's just failed his exams, would I want to hear, I told you so? If I was my husband who just walked through the doors after a long day at work, would I want to hear the complaints of my wife, like of everything that's gone wrong? Would I want to hear it as soon as I come through the doors? If I was my wife who was pregnant and gave birth and put on some weight, would I want to hear from my husband, honey, you look a bit fat today? Would I want to hear that? So place yourself in the other person's shoes, and that helps you to develop sensitivity as to whether your words are going to be of a positive or negative impact at that particular point in time. It doesn't mean you can't tell truth, but it gives you sensitivity, because then you're able to sort of assess to see how they'll receive it. Will it be hurtful to this person right now? And that's key in developing quality words. Okay, I do hope this is helpful to you. Please feel free to subscribe and to share this with whoever you think needs to hear it. Until next time, have a wonderful day. Take it easy. Bye.